Good afternoon. It's Monday, August 31st. I'm Aryeh O'Sullivan, and this is IBA News, broadcasting from Jerusalem. The Secondary School Teachers Union is threatening to strike the opening of the school year tomorrow if no immediate solution for severe problems in the education system is found. Among their demands, the teachers are requesting that their existing work contracts be updated, better compensation benefits, improved pension plans, and that senior administrative positions will not be divided. The union claims that repeated appeals to launch negotiations with the Education Ministry have gone unheeded, and that if serious talks do not begin today, they will strike tomorrow and won't start the new academic year as planned. Meanwhile, it remains unclear if students in the Arab sector will return to class tomorrow amid threats by the heads of local Arab authorities to strike on the first 2 days of the school year in protest of their unheeded demands for expanded budget allocations. Last night, Arab officials met with Treasury representatives to discuss their demands for an extra 600 million shekels over the next 5 years to develop the educational system in the Arab sector and improve infrastructure in towns. Head of the joint list, Ayman Oide, is scheduled to meet with Prime Minister Netanyahu to discuss the matter. Treasury officials have so far committed to reaching a conclusive budget plan regarding Arab sector within 1 month. The fate of tomorrow's strike will be announced later tonight when talks between the two sides conclude. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu acknowledged today the surging wave of terror that Israeli citizens have been subjected to in these recent months, and said that the authorities are planning to increase the presence of security forces in order to contend with the escalation. He also offered praise for the nominated police commissioner, Gal Hirsch. Here with more is IBA's political correspondent, Eli Wogelenter.
Prime Minister Netanyahu told the cabinet today that he held a discussion with the Minister of Defense, the Minister for Internal Security, and the Minister of Transportation in order, he said, to deal with what is looking like a growing trend of terror attacks in Jerusalem as well as Judea and Samaria. We will beef up forces and increase vehicular protection to safeguard the security of the citizens of Israel, he told the cabinet. A total of 580 terror attacks were documented in June and July against both civilians and security forces in the area that includes the Old City of Jerusalem, as well as the Mount of Olives, the Silwan neighborhood, and the City of David. That averages close to 10 terror attacks per day in that part of the city. These included 477 rocket attacks, as well as 28 firebomb attacks against vehicles and homes in which Jews reside. Additional incidents involve throwing empty glass bottles, shooting fireworks, and damaging property. Meanwhile, Energy Minister Yuval Steinitz and Netanyahu are expected to decide today when to bring the controversial gas deal to a Knesset vote, with Steinitz indicating it could happen as soon as Wednesday. Prime Minister and Energy Minister were seeking to quickly advance the agreement, which has held up offshore drilling, following the announcement yesterday of a massive offshore gas find off the coast of Egypt. The supergiant natural gas field, 40% larger than Israel's Leviathan field, is being described as the largest ever found in the Mediterranean Sea. The deal already passed by the cabinet earlier this month could be brought to a vote on Wednesday when the Knesset convenes for a special summer session to bring the 2-year budget for a first reading. Steinitz said the gas field found offshore from Egypt should be a wake-up call for Israel to finalize an agreement on its own sizable reserves in the Mediterranean Sea. Said Steinitz, the discovery of the massive gas field in Egypt is a painful reminder that while Israel sleepwalks and dallies with the final approval for the gas deal and delays further prospecting, the world is changing in front of us. We must pass the gas roadmap and move forward the Israeli gas industry. Finally, Netanyahu threw his weight behind Gal Hirsch, the embattled nominee to become the next police chief. Netanyahu told the cabinet that the former IDF brigadier general was the right man at the right time for the job, calling Hirsch an upright, ethical officer with great abilities to bring about changes and to contribute to strengthening the Israeli police and the rule of law in the state. Public Security Minister Gilad Erdan said he and Attorney General Yehuda Weinstein had agreed to extend by 45 days the term of Acting Commissioner Ben Sisal to give more time to vet Hirsch. Aryeh?
Thanks, Eli, for that report. For his part, the police commissioner-elect today responded to the ongoing controversy surrounding his appointment, lashing out at what he called a premeditated campaign of defamation and leaks to the media, aimed at tarnishing his good name. In a Facebook post this morning, Hirsch wrote that he has no complaints against the police or its investigations department, stressing that neither he nor his associates were responsible for such claims. Hirsch urged the police to assist the Attorney General in thoroughly examining his nomination. Tomorrow, the Turco Committee, charged with evaluating the appointments of senior civil servants, will convene to review the matter, including an interview with Hirsch himself. 5 Palestinian prisoners held in administrative detention at the Ktiot jail in the Negev had launched a hunger strike to protest their incarceration without trial. Israel Prison Service says that they began their strike yesterday, but the Palestinian Authority Committee for the Prisoners' Affairs claims that today the group's is 11th day without food. A lawyer for the PA committee said the detainees have given Israeli authorities until the 1st of September to respond to their demand, after which they threatened to stop taking fluids. President Reuven Rivlin says that the links with Egypt and Jordan are proof of Israel's desire to reach peace with all its neighbors. Speaking at the annual Rosh Hashanah reception for foreign diplomats, Rivlin added that Israel had no war with Islam and that it was Iran which was threatening the entire world with its support for terror.
Our treaties with Egypt and Jordan stand as witness to this strong desire and show our willingness to make painful compromises. Yes, painful compromises. If there is a real chance for peace and security, and I believe that there is a real chance for peace and security. Israel has no war with Islam. No war with Islam. There is no holy war in the Holy Land. Rather, we face a struggle against fundamentalists from all sides who want to consume us all, Jews, Muslims, Christians, in the flames of hatred. Yet in our region, this is what we face. Iran, unfortunately, continue to threaten stability in the region and around the world. Their backing of terror in Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, Iraq makes Iran's nuclear ambition truly terrifying, not just for Israel, but for all.
An archaeological enigma has been unearthed in Jerusalem's City of David. Archaeologists have excavated an intriguing pyramid-shaped podium constructed of remarkably well-preserved large ashlar stones. It is located alongside the 2,000-year-old Second Temple Street, upon which pilgrims walked on their way from the Siloam Pool to the temple. Nothing like this has ever been found in Jerusalem, and scholars at the Antiquities Authority speculate that the podium, which has 4 steps, was visible to all and may have been used to make announcements or for street preaching. It may also be the Stone of Claims, mentioned in the Talmud as an ancient lost and found that existed at the time. In the excavations, whole pottery vessels as well as coins from the Great Revolt against the Romans were also found. Culture and Sports Minister Miri Regev today denied allegations that her office paid millions of shekels to an advertising firm without a tender because the company's owner, Rami Yehoshua, was an associate of hers. Regev convened a special press conference this morning to respond to the accusations, which surfaced last night during a Channel 10 expose that aired taped conversations with Regev that she had with some of her confidants, suggesting that she was looking into ways to cover her tracks. The culture minister told journalists today that, contrary to the report, she has no personal ties with Yehoshua and insisted that the ministry's conduct was in line with protocol and everything was done according to law. Regev said the ad firm was hired because it proposed the best campaign to promote cultural events during the month of August. She stressed that the company was chosen without a tender because it already had a work contract with Israel's Sports Betting Board, which is part of the culture ministry, and helped fund the campaign. Regev said she may launch a lawsuit against Channel 10 for reporting false information. Returning to the start of the school year, and the number of immigrant students in Israel is 50% higher than last year, with 2,900 young people beginning their first school year in the Israeli education system. Of these, 360 will begin first grade. Like last school year, France was the country from which the largest number of immigrant pupils arrived, with some 1,150, followed by Ukraine with 500, Russia with 470, and the U.S. with 270. As the school year is set to begin, the Golgia Center in the Amit Network schools in Ra'anana is busy preparing. Golgia is a formalized program instituted to train all of Amit's teachers on how to adopt and implement the various teaching methods which have led to the tremendous success of the Amit Network. Arut Sheva visited the center and spoke to the experts there about the changing concepts in teaching.
The changes for teaching and learning are going to be huge over the next decade or so, because children are going to have access to learning from many more sources. But we shouldn't lose track of the idea that teachers can still have a major impact on the learning of children and on their lives.
How could that happen? I mean, when the kids are out there and Googling and Wikipedia and they know everything, what is the role of the teacher at this point?
The role of the teacher is to teach what we're increasingly understanding as something called executive function, which is the ability of young people to make judgments, to integrate different sources of information, and to make decisions about what to believe and what not to believe. Because in a world in which all information doesn't have to come through a single adult, the important capacities of learners have to be how to make decisions about what to learn and how to learn it.
First, we have to trust the teacher, to give them opportunity to have initiative in class. If we would like that our children will be creative, we need to give them opportunity and to the environment to do a lot of activity in school. Today they are very passive. They have lecture and they don't have any activity in schools. So we need to teach the teachers how to do project, how to do teamwork in school, and to be available to all the skills that we need for the children in the 21st century.
It's a system that's working. It's like a factory that's going ahead. How can you even say, stop, make a change?
You don't stop. What you do is you change the important variables. You change the bureaucratic structure so that it's more agile and more nimble, and so that teachers and school leaders can make decisions on their own that lead to higher levels of learning. And the other big thing that you alter is the quality of the people who enter the teaching force. And like all countries, we need to get control of that, because attracting powerful talent to the learning sector is going to be the most important way to improve the system. And I think both the U.S. and Israel are struggling in this respect. The status of teachers has declined, and we need to reinvigorate the profession.
So for half a year already, this place has been operating. What are the responses of teachers when they're hearing your messages of the revolution?
I can tell you that it's a culture change. It's not simple at all. In the beginning, we analyze with them the need. What we are relevant, we ask questions. We are relevant to our kids. We know how to prepare them to the future. And when they start to understand the need of change, they start with a small group. We are taking R&D team in schools. They are coming day a week to learn. Teachers come not to teach, come to learn once a week how to change their schools. We give them the responsibility to lead this change, so then they are taking the other teachers in school and they make them a teamwork to change all the schools.
Tensions continue to run high today near the Palestinian village of Beit Jala in the West Bank, surrounding the construction of Israel's security fence. Dozens of Palestinians are protesting against the barrier which they claim now threatens to separate between a monastery and convent of the same Catholic order. Yesterday, clashes between demonstrators and IDF forces erupted at the site. The barrier was originally planned to have run between the 19th century Silesian monastery, which is within the municipal borders of Jerusalem, and the Silesian sister convent, which is in the West Bank. But following Palestinian appeals, Israel's High Court ordered the IDF to consider alternative routes that would have had a less harmful impact on the religious sites and its community. Earlier this month, the army resumed construction in the area, leaving a 200-meter gap surrounding the two. But the Palestinians claim that this is not enough and that the fence will eventually separate the institutions. Staying in the West Bank, where dozens of Palestinian villagers have begun using Israeli-made, environmental-friendly reactors that convert organic waste into gas. The portable household digesters, created by Israeli startup company Home Biogas, turn food leftovers and manure into methane for cooking. The invention is currently being given a trial run in undeveloped rural areas inside the West Bank. With funding from the European Union and the Paris Center for Peace, some 40 digesters have been set up in a pilot project at the Palestinian village of Al Auja in the Jordan Valley. Its founders believe the system could save many lives in rural areas where smoke inhalation can cause severe respiratory illness and death.
The system will be available to everyone that needs it in the developing world, that it will eliminate the waste, help them to use clean gas, and then they don't have to breathe the smoke, and that it will be available also for the Western world to people that have houses and garden that use it as they use the composter, use it to create their gas, clean, renewable energy.
Egypt has announced that long-awaited parliamentary elections will take place in October and November, a hoped-for step toward democracy amid a harsh crackdown on dissent. The head of the Supreme Election Committee said that half the country's 27 governorates will vote on October 18th and 19th. The second stage will take place for the remaining governorates on November 22nd and 23rd. The period for candidates to register opens September 1st and lasts for 12 days. Egypt has been without a legislator for 3 years. In its absence, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi holds legislative authority and has passed dozens of laws by decree in just over a year of his tenure. Parliamentary elections were supposed to be held in March, but a court suspended them over districting issues. The amount of damage done by an explosion near the ancient temple of Bel in the Islamic State-controlled city of Palmyra remains unclear. This is the word from a Syrian government official in charge of antiquities who said that undoubtedly a large explosion did take place near the 2,000-year-old temple, which lies in the sprawling Roman-era complex. An Islamic State operative earlier said that the temple had been destroyed without elaborating. Activists have reported that the temple sustained extensive damage in the explosion. Islamic State has destroyed another smaller temple in the city last week. Well, if you're thinking of filling up the gas tank of your car tonight, you might just want to hold off until after midnight, when 95-octane fuel is set to drop 29 agarot to 6 shekels and 9 agarot per liter at the self-service pump. That's a 4.5% drop from last month, which amounts to a savings of nearly 15 shekels if you're totally filling up a 50-liter tank. This comes on top of a similar fall in prices the previous month, and now the price of gas in Israel has returned to a 5-year low level we enjoyed in February of this year. Prices of oil on the world market to thanks for the decrease, and hey, every little bit helps. In financial news, the shekel today put in a mixed performance against major foreign currencies, while share prices on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange were down across the board. Here's a look at the late afternoon numbers. Turning to the weather, and the forecast is for partly cloudy skies tomorrow with a slight rise in temperatures, so the first day of school will be slightly warmer than usual for this time of the year. Here's a look at the expected highs and lows at home and abroad for the next 24 hours. That's all for today. Please join us again tomorrow when I'll be back to bring you the latest breaking news from Israel. I'm Ariel Sullivan, wishing you a good evening and shalom from Jerusalem.